Hey everyone, so I'm back with the 5th video in my 12th house series, and today we're going to be focusing in on the Sun/Leo in the 12th house. And rather than me going into all the details of what Leo and the Sun represent, I'm just going to place the link of the video I did on Aquarius and Leo in the description box so that I can just make it easier for you and that we can just focus in on the 12th house. So without further ado, let's get into the Greek mythology of how Leo came to be. It's actually kind of funny because I didn't expect myself to talk about Hercules again, because I've never really gone too deep into the Greek aspect of astrology. I've just only focused in on astrology, and of course I love Greek mythology because I knew they were intertwined, they were connected. But anyway, I didn't expect myself to be talking about Hercules again and his 12 labors of Hercules' journey. And I'm assuming based off of what I read, because Juno gets brought up again when it comes to this. I don't know if, next video I will let you know what I find out to see if she was the one that actually created this journey for him just to make his entire life a living hell. I don't know what started all of this, but anyway, the Greek mythology of Leo. So while Hercules is in on his journey, I guess after he destroys the crab, he now has to go to Nemea, I think it's called, and has to slay a lion, the Nemean lion. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but yes, has to kill this lion. But the catch, of course, because there's always a catch, is that the lion cannot die by regular weapons. Can't die by bronze, metal, the whole nine when it comes to weaponry. So, Hercules goes there, he does everything that he can. He starts throwing arrows at the lion and they just bounce off of his pelt. So he's just like, screw it, lets go of his weapons because there's just no point, and decides that he's going to barehanded, like straight up wrestle this lion. And Hercules has great strength because he's a demigod, so ends up strangling the lion. I forget, I'm doing it from an angle as if I imagine it in my mind, but strangles the lion to death. But before the lion dies, he, I think, rips off one of Hercules' fingers. So clearly doesn't go out without a fight, but that finger was just a small portion of what Hercules probably would have gotten had he not been as strong as he is, and Hercules and all that, So that's how Leo came to be. And after he killed him, he skins him and uses his skins as like a shield, a breastplate shield, and something of the jaw of the lion turns it into a helmet. Like, really gruesome, but yeah. And it's just supposed to symbolize bravery and all those things associated with Leo. Now let's get into the Sun in the 12th house. Okay, so Sun in the 12th house individuals, this is a very interesting placement because, as we know, the Sun represents not only bravery and things that we immediately think of when we think about lions and Leos, but it also represents the ego more specifically. So when we have Sun, the ego, in the 12th house, which is the collective ego or the collective self, the collective union of everyone, there's always going to be this battle between what it is that you want and desire, or how you want to stand firmly in your own identity, and that battling with this unconscious thing inside of you that is, what I like to say, or how I would like to interpret it, there's a part of you, that little voice in your head that tells you of the bad things that you do, or the things that you keep trapped inside that nobody else would know. So I guess how I like to at least understand it personally is the ego can be great, but it can also blind you to parts of yourself that aren't so sweet. Like, it's great to say, oh, I'm the best and I'm amazing and I do all these great things, and they can be true, but there's almost like this hidden arrogance and this hidden belief in certain Sun and 12th house people that people in the world in general owe them. They owe them a certain living, a certain lifestyle. They owe them attention. They owe them admiration. And some of them might not even know this, once again, because we're dealing with the 12th house. Things are hidden. So if you are a sun in 12th house person who spends most of your days shunning away and blocking out those thoughts that try to come into your mind and tell you about yourself, tell you certain things about yourself that you don't want to hear, you're not ready to hear, if they're not ready to to deal with that or confront that, then they're just going to go through life assuming that they're much better than what they actually are, which works against them, because a beautiful thing about this placement is that these individuals, if they know how to properly merge their unconscious mind and thoughts with their conscious identity, these people can be great leaders for the general collective because they just have that natural power within them. And something that I thought was just a great way that this was explained in the book that I was reading, and I'll place the books. I'll start placing the links to the books that I actually use and read that are helping me and guiding me and teaching you guys what I know. But something that I thought was super cool that I read was that when you have this placement, it is essentially your ego playing servant to your soul. And once again, it's about your individual ego versus the collective self, and just overall the personal versus the universal. So in order for a sun in 12th house individual to reach that point of leadership for the collective, they can't allow their ego to put up too many barriers. They have to find a way to allow their ego to become flexible. At the same time, this flexibility cannot be too much or too weak, because then it will just completely overwhelm a sun in 12th house individual. And something else that was a great example to explain this is for people who I want to focus on is the sun in 12th house individuals who don't find a way to allow their ego to be flexible. It's the cyclical thing where for most of the day they're blocking out all of these different thoughts and confusion associated with their identity and what it is that they actually feel about themselves and how they contribute to the world. Or I don't know, it's just a battle in general. But those people who try to fight against it, just like all 12th house placements or Pisces and Neptune placements, that darkness is going to slip in. The unknown is going to slip in one way or another. So you can go willingly, just like I stated with the previous videos, or you can allow it to come and get you, which would, I personally think, be less enjoyable, much more of a shock. I guess a self-shock, you not knowing certain things about yourself, and then it just kind of all hits. And depending on the kind of person you are, it might not be that easy to discover certain parts of yourself or certain parts of society that don't sit right with you. And of course, once again, if the challenge is taken on well, these people can become great leaders for the general collective. It's almost as if these people are a vessel for change, and people almost naturally gravitate towards them in leadership positions or as a leader in general in whichever space they are in. And I've actually worked with a person who had sun in the 12th house, and not only was he compassionate, 12th house, he had a lot of 12th house placements, so I'm just gonna put that out there. But he was just naturally gave off the energy of not only being a leader and knowing what he was doing, but caring about the general public. And I don't know if it's something that he just purposely strive for. I know he does a lot now in his adult years, but it's almost in a situation when it comes to this placement, you feel a certain passion or a certain injustice, and you start to recognize that other people share that same sentiment, and because of your ego being bruised due to this unfair situation, you now decide to step up because you realize you have the willpower and the strength and probably the credentials to speak your mind for everybody else in the office. That's just what I'm explaining when I say they are vessels for change as a sun in a 12th houser. Lastly, when it comes to this placement, because I don't want to make this video too long, if you have this placement, institutions are a big part of your everyday. More than likely, you are more than likely going to be a person who is going to be of service to others in one way or another, because we're dealing with the 12th house in Pisces, okay? I'm gonna be saying that a lot when it comes to this series. But yeah, so hospitals, libraries, prisons, museums, etc., that is what a lot of sun and 12th house individuals are probably going to be having their work surrounded by, or at least that's where they're going to be at, where they can be of service to others in those institutions. Also, this was something quick that I read, and I wanted to note it because I actually want to look more deeply into what it's actually saying, or if there's some type of validity to it, because I definitely see validity when it comes to the moon being connected to the mother, and people with those strong types of placements really do have a lot of feelings and emotional upheavals when it comes to their mom, good or bad, whatever. But what I read about this is that this situation can be associated with the father figure or male figures, because just like Saturn, the sun also represents the father, but just different. I think Leo is like father as far as, like, once again, like a leader, but a more fun leader, where Saturn is mostly focused in on discipline and trying to impress others, and reputation is everything. Leo is more so, or the sun is more so the physical aspect of what manhood may represent, the family, romance, things like that. Like, I would say, like, a sun would be like bachelor dad, and Saturn would be like disciplined dad, or kills the mood dad. I don't know. The sun, when it comes to the 12th house, can also represent relationships like with the father figure, or just males in general, and there being conflict with that, as well as psychic abilities with the father figure. Or there can also be a situation where they're just confused by the males in their life, or confused about their own manhood. And another aspect to all of this is also them possibly making sacrifices for the men in their life, for the father figure in their life. Now, with all that being said, let's get into Leo in the 12th house and what your karmic past is. Last but not least, if you have Leo specifically in the 12th house, your past life is involving you or somebody else. It could always be vice versa when I'm talking about karmic paths, but I'll get into the nitty-gritty as to what your purpose here now is, depending on whether or not you are a victim or a perpetrator. Now, if you were a perpetrator, your karmic past lies in you basically abusing your power by either trying to sabotage others in order to get ahead, you know, for your image or whatever. Or you could have literally just used your power, your willpower, to control others. So you either use your willpower to get ahead and advance, or you use your willpower to control others, and neither one of them are okay, obviously. If you were the one trying to sabotage somebody to get ahead, you are now going to live a life in which you don't have as much control, or any control at all, over your circumstances. And what that is meant to do is get you to appreciate others. Yeah, you're going to have to learn how to appreciate the needs of others. Instead of just focusing on what you want and what you need, that is now going to be your role for others. If you were controlling others in a previous life, in this lifetime you will have a chart that will be geared towards others controlling you in a probably very extreme way, so that in this lifetime you will start to respect and understand autonomy and freedom. However, if you were the victim in a previous life and you have this placement now, the whole goal for your life purpose in this lifetime is for you to gain confidence and strength so that you can be the leader and shine the way that you are meant to shine in this lifetime. Because the problem is that when you're born, you have an innate quality about you that naturally makes you give up your power to others, probably because you were being controlled in a previous life, or people were always walking over you trying to shine their light and dim yours. So you don't have as much confidence, or you feel as though you're inadequate in this lifetime. But as time goes on, those moments are going to show up that are going to allow you to start to fight for yourself and fight for your own strength, your own willpower, and your own confidence. Not arrogance, confidence, because when it comes to the sun and Leo, it teeters and totters, okay? Like, there's a real fine line when it comes to this sign, okay? And I can't even hide it. Like, I can't hide when I have tiny biases when it comes to certain signs. Granted, like, I have certain qualities too that we all do have certain qualities of each sign in us in some way or shape or form, depending on your chart. But most of us, for the most part, have some type of influence by all of the planets. So it's funny, but I learn and I become less and less biased as these videos come along. That is all that I have for everybody. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way to the end. And next week we are going to focus on, what's the next sign? Virgo / I guess Mercury again in the 12th house, but more so focusing in on it in relation to Virgo and Virgo qualities, okay? So thanks again, and I hope you watch my video next week. Have a lovely day.